Tom, we heard from Francois Legault today. It's been a while. He addressed a couple of different issues, air care for the one, but then he was asked about his own party. Now, of course, based on the whole situation with the scrapping of the tunnel, there are CAQ MNAs in those regions who basically promised their voters they'd be getting it. They're a little upset with the premier. The question was asked of him, what will he do? What will he say to them? Here's what he said.
I think, of course, we have to look at the figures. We are a responsible party, and I think that time will help. Of course, it's not an ideal situation. It's not a question of black and white, is this the right decision or the wrong decision. It's about the pros and the cons. And right now, with the new data regarding delays, we have to face reality. We cannot justify a third link for cars.
Tom, I'm somewhat confused, other than the fact he mentioned data about 10 times in a variety of different answers. What's going on here?
So Legault would have you believe that up until the election on October 3rd last, so roughly 6 months ago, he didn't have the type of information that he got in April of 2023, this month. He says, I just found out that during the pandemic, ridership on some of these bridges was down a bit, so we don't need this massive new link between the North and South Shores. When you know that a project like this takes between 12 and 15 years to plan out, to consult on, and eventually to build, you have to understand that in the greater Quebec City area, they will have a population of well over 1 million 12 to 15 years from now. That's when, in all likelihood, the Quebec Railway Bridge, which is a beautiful cantilever structure you see when you drive into Quebec City, you come across the St. Lawrence, that's that beautiful old rusting hulk that's there. Who knows how long that thing's going to last? It's held in place by its own rust, and it doesn't look very solid. That's the least you can say. The other one is the Pierre Laporte Bridge. It's over 50 years old. It should last for a few decades. But we thought that about the Champlain, and then almost overnight, in terms of these types of structures, we realized that the Champlain had to be replaced as soon as possible because it had become very dangerous. So that whole region, the 1 million people involved, and the whole economy of that key region of the province could be down the tubes if they don't build a link that's proper between the two sides. Now they're saying they're going to put a tramway under the river and maybe connect Lévis and Quebec City, but that's absolutely useless if you've got a piece of machinery in Beauport and you want to deliver it to the Davie Shipbuilding Yard, which is going to now be part of the national shipbuilding effort. Well, then it doesn't make any sense what they've just decided. So Legault is trying to justify the unjustifiable. His government's going to be branded as people who just don't tell the truth, and that's why some of his ministers, not just his MNAs, are quite upset with this. Martine Biron and even Bernard Drinville managed to sputter out something today saying how upsetting the whole thing was.
Huh. You wanted to ask about
well, yeah,
it, right?
Since we're talking about Bernard Drinville, I was expecting there to be fallout from what happened when he stormed out of the Blue Room last week. Has nothing happened? Has there not been an apology for that or anything, Tom?
Oh, of course not. There are two things you should know about the CAQ. The CAQ is never wrong. And the second point is whenever the CAQ is wrong, you have to reread the first rule. So there's never any reason for an apology. Yeah. And Legault showed that again today. By the way, we're talking about all this stuff, but I don't know if you saw what happened at question period. So Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, who has made his mark in different ways, he's sort of helped revive at least the interest in the Parti Québécois. I don't know if it's going to last for very long, but he's also done one other thing. He's really managed by his own behavior to change this very traditional, old, angry tone in the National Assembly. And it's a sea change. It's a real substantive change in the way people talk, the way they behave with each other, the respect they show. Out of the blue. So Saint-Pierre Plamondon is asking a question of Legault today at question period. It was something, pretty straight, about what the reaction was of the people that he had essentially betrayed in the Beauce region and in what they call Chaudière-Appalaches and the Quebec City region. And Legault says this. It was one of the weirdest things, but it was deeply personal, and it was so incredible that the premier of the province would stoop so low. He said, this guy is only an MNA because somebody from Québec Solidaire stole a PQ flyer. Now, we all remember the story. There was this story of a Québec Solidaire candidate. She was filmed by a camera on somebody's porch, and she indeed pilfered a flyer. that's the Camille Lorrain riding. That's where PSPP got elected. So there's no way to know whether that particular butterfly effect had changed the result of the election. But the very fact that Legault, on a day like this, when he should have just kept his head down and gone home, decided that the best thing for him to do was take this type of incredibly personal, cheap shot against a largely admired. You can completely disagree with his politics, as I do, but I have to admire something about Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. He is a gentleman. He is bringing a new tone to politics, and Legault just showed that he was really from the old guard, a completely old generation of Quebec politician.
So let's talk about what that means, because that's sending a message of some kind. I would think the first message it sends is the fact he's starting to feel a little bit of pressure based on everything that's going on around him.
Very good. Very, very well said, Aaron. I couldn't agree with you more.
So what does he do about a guy like Eric Kerr, or is that going to get forgotten, Tom?
Well, it's an astonishing set of events because it goes to my little joke before about, the CAC never being wrong. If he were to allow Kerr to step down, because if Kerr were to do anything of substance or of value, he would respect his own word. He said that he would resign and call a by-election, leave himself, like Sheila Copps, the opening to run in that by-election, see if he could get reelected.
Yeah.
The last thing François Legault wants is for Eric Kerr to step down to be a by-election, because there's another Eric waiting in the wings, somebody who's been on your show any number of times, Éric Duhaime, the head of the Quebec Conservatives. And Duhaime would win that riding. It's called La Pelletrie. That's where I used to live in Quebec City, in Cap Rouge. It's an absolute certainty that Éric Duhaime would win that riding and just thrash, of course, Eric Kerr. So Legault is not going to let that happen. So Legault was blowing smoke up Eric Kerr's wazoo today, saying, "Oh, this guy is just amazing. He's fantastic. No reason for him to step down." I mean, Legault's and then he says, "I'm the one who called the shot on this. The numbers have changed. We don't need this thing anymore that we swore up and down we would build in 2018, and then we swore up and down again just last fall that we would build." So it's such deep cynicism. Anytime I hear in the future anybody dare talk about, cynicism in politics and not include what Legault has just pulled, I'm going to really take the opportunity to correct them and say, this is one of the most crass political moves I've ever seen. We've all seen politicians promise stuff to get elected and break that promise. That exists. But this scale, this scope, this brazen, this is one for the record books.
Are we witnessing the unraveling of Legault and of the CAQ, or can they get it back together?
The very slow beginning of maybe ticking down a point or two or three in the surveys, and then maybe a little bit more than that. Because there is, something about Quebec politics. We don't like keeping people around for too long. And even though this guy came up with his own political party and he had a little bit of this, a little bit of that, people still just wanted to move away. The Liberals had been around for so many years under both Charest and Couillard that, it was just, well, we're not going back to the separatists. Might as well give this guy a try. So he's drinking his own Kool-Aid if he thinks that this is going to just keep going forever. And so I think that he should start paying attention to the fact that there are a lot of people who are cross with him. 16 ridings in the greater Quebec City area. So that's really substantial amongst, out of 90 seats.
Sure is.
Tom, while we still have a minute here, we asked the question earlier on. So Joe Biden has now formally announced he will seek re-election. And the question we asked today, and I wanted to ask it because I saw, unless I got this number wrong, I saw a poll of Democrats in his own party, a number up around 70% who thought he should not run. And I'm guessing that's because of age. And I wanted your take on this.
Yeah, and they're all going to vote for him anyway if he's the candidate. So, I mean, yes, they're saying that in an ideal world, they should have somebody younger. And you know what? They're right. To put it another way, neither Donald Trump nor Joe Biden would be allowed to sit on the Canadian Supreme Court or in the Canadian Senate because they're too old. So yes, there is that, but in the States they have no such age limit. We don't have it in politics either, by the way. We only have it for an appointed place like the Senate or the Supreme Court. And so another way of putting this is, in a country of 350 million people, that's got some pretty amazing people. Really?
Yeah.
The only two people you can choose from are an 80-year-old, well-intentioned guy who's been around politics his whole life, and a lunatic from New York City who lies through his teeth about everything and anything.
Yeah, but what about Donald Trump? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The Donald. I hope you saw what he put out today, because this morning we saw this great, I love, studying political communications, and I can tell you, this 3-minute thing that was put out by the Biden camp. This is just 5-star stuff. You've never seen anything so polished, so well done. Lots of Kamala Harris in there, and this is really great stuff.
Oh,
what did Donald Trump do? I can't make this stuff up. You have to go and read the mindless diatribe that he went, the rant that he did against Biden. The guy is non-compos mentis. He shouldn't be anywhere near anything of danger, anything more pointed than a fork. But unfortunately, if he ever wins again, he's going to have the button for the nuclear weapons of the United States of America. That's a terrifying thought.
Asking for a friend. Where is this diatribe as you described it, Tom? Is it on Twitter?
This is Donald Trump who put this out himself on
Truth
social media today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Not for me.
Can't wait.
Tom Mulcair back tomorrow morning with Andrew Carter at 7:40. Thank you, Tom.